Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Ancient Mysteries. I'm Roger Hanson, and I'm here to continue where I left off. The last episode, I was going through and discussing Nyx, Astrius, Eos, Erebus, and a lot of cool names like that. I covered philosophical interpretations and connections in Greek and Phoenician cosmologies when it comes to this subject, and the role of Maat in creation and things of that nature. So in this one, I am going to be going even further. I am going to start getting more into Anemoi. Now, Anemoi is the Greek deity of the winds, and in the tradition of the Greek or the Greek tradition, when it comes to the deities of the winds, they're talking about the winds of the four winds. You have the north, the south, the east, and the west. So that's where I'm going to start off, and eventually, after I am done with that, or not when I'm done with it, it'll actually lead into the subject of pre-Greek substrates, and then from pre-Greek substrates, I am going to go into the Proto-Indo-European language. Now, this is going to break it down to kind of give us an idea of what these words mean according to the Proto-Indo-European language. And I've always been saying Indo-European, which I should be saying Proto-Indo-European languages, which is two separate things. But eventually, as time goes by, we'll get to that, and I'll kind of get into that a little bit more, what the difference is between Proto and Indo-European and just straight Indo-European. So, but I don't believe I will be able to get to that today. I can almost guarantee it that I'm not going to, because there's a lot of information here. The good news is that I finally got it organized and set up to where I want it. I've been kind of debating on if I want to go back into the Canaanite religions, because there's a lot of important information there relating to a lot of this. So I may go back through, but when I go back through, I am going to go ahead. When I go back through, I'm going to do it different. It's not going to be like it was back whenever I did it the last time. Now I got a message in Skype from the real Angel. He said, "Sorry guys, can't join the call. I'm doing something very important at the moment. Reading something very heavy." He's reading a big book. So, thank you for that, Angel. And with that being said, I am going to go ahead and continue where I left off. So, here we go. Now, the Anemoi, the Greek deities of wind, were conceptualized and named through the combination of observation, cultural mythology, and linguistic development. The origins of the term and the associated deities are deeply rooted in the Indo-European linguistic tradition and the ancient Greek understanding of nature. The term anemoi derives from the Greek word animos, or animus, meaning wind. This word shares its root with other Indo-European languages indicating a common linguistic ancestor. For example, Sanskrit, anila, air, wind or air, and in Latin, anima, breath, spirit, or life. Old English, apnean, which means to breathe or blow. The connection between wind and life-breathing likely contributed to the divine characterization of the winds as essential and powerful forces of nature. Ancient Greeks often personified natural elements, attributing them to specific deities or spirits. The winds, with their tangible yet invisible power, were natural candidates for deification. Their variability or variability in direction, intensity, and effects were reflected in distinct identities for the anemoi. The anemoi were associated with the cardinal directions, each representing a specific wind and its characteristics. Linguistics. The anemoi were associated with cardinal directions, each representing a specific wind and its characteristics. The name Boreas may come from the root bore or bore, meaning to roar, reflecting the strong, cold nature of the northern wind. Boreas was depicted as a powerful, sometimes harsh deity, often bringing winter storms. Notice stems from the Greek anotos, which is connected to wet and stormy conditions. Notice was associated with the late summer rains and storms, sometimes feared for their destructive potential. The name Urus likely comes from Eurus. The name Eurus likely comes from Ur, meaning wide or broad, perhaps indicating the expanse of the eastern sky at dawn. Eurus was considered unpredictable and often brought rain and warm air. And when I was looking at that also rung out to me about the word Europe. Europe, the root word, could have stemmed from the meaning wide or broad whenever the Indo-European, the Proto-Indo-Europeans and all of them migrated westward. That's probably where the word originated from, because it was so broad and wide. So that kind of stuck to me. Now, Zephyrus derives from Zephyrus, possibly connected to the word Zophos, meaning darkness or gloom, though it is also tied to gentler connotations. Zephyrus was seen as a mild, favorable wind, heralding spring and renewal. The anemoi were integrated into Greek mythology as more than just weather phenomenon. They were given genealogies, typically as sons of Eos, which is dawn, and Astraeus, starry sky, connecting them to cosmic and celestial elements. And we went through and discussed Eos and Astraeus last week, and that's what they represent. They represent the dawn and the starry skies. The winds played a vital role in agriculture, navigation, and seasonal cycles, leading to their veneration and mythologization. Each wind's behavior influenced human activity and survival, reinforcing their importance in Greek culture. The Greeks used linguistic observation to describe natural phenomena. The names of the anemoi encapsulate their qualities. In other words, roaring, boreas, and gentle. Roaring Boreas, or gentle Zephyrus. The personification of the wind was preserved and elaborated upon through oral tradition and epic poetry. Linguistic creativity allowed the winds to be characterized with human traits and narratives. The linguistic connection between wind, animus, or animos, and breath, spirit, anima, influenced the understanding of the winds as life-giving and spiritual forces. This duality of physical and metaphysical significance solidified their presence as deities. The concept of the animi influenced subsequent cultures and languages. In Roman mythology, the animoi were adapted into deities like Auster, which is Notus, and Favonius, which is Zephyrus. The names and symbolism of the winds carried into medieval and Renaissance art, where they were depicted on maps and as part of cosmological diagrams. Now, with that being read, I am going to kind of dive into some pre-Greek substrate, because to understand what's going on with all of these terms and these names, we're going to have to understand the difference between Indo-European as well as pre-Greek substrate and what that was. Here in recent episodes that I've been streaming, I've been talking about how different cultures and religions learned how to migrate or integrate their belief systems into one another. They would converge them and create a new belief system, basically. And this is kind of where that goes into. So let me go ahead and get that started. So the pre-Greek substrate refers to the linguistic and cultural influences that existed in Greece before the arrival of Indo-European speaking people, such as the Mycenaeans, who introduced the Greek language. These influences are seen as remnants of languages and cultures that were present in the region during the Neolithic and early Bronze Age, long before Greek became dominant. The study of the pre-Greek substrate is based on evidence found in toponyms, personal names, mythological terms, and loanwords within the Greek. The pre-Greek substrate languages are believed to have been non-Indo-European, meaning they do not belong to the same language family as Greek, Sanskrit, or Latin. These languages may have been spoken by the people who inhabited the Aegean, Crete, and surrounding who inhabited the Aegean, Crete, and surrounding areas. Many Greek place names are considered to be of pre-Greek origin because they do not conform to Indo-European phonetic or morphological patterns. Examples include names ending in enthos or nthos, like Corinthus, Zakynthos, names like that end with it. Now, there is also names that have SO or SSOS or SOS that go with, that are involved in that too, and that would be like Gnosis or Parnassus. Now, Greek inherited a number of words from the pre-Greek substrate, particularly terms related to agriculture, names of plants and animals, religion, and mythological concepts local geography. These borrowed words often exhibited unusual phonological patterns or structures that do not align with typical Greek word formation. Archaeological evidence such as the Cycladic figurines and the Minoan civilization of Crete points to a sophisticated pre-Greek culture. Religious practices such as goddess worship and labyrinthine temple layouts may also have influenced later Greek cultures. Words from the pre-Greek substrate often include sounds and combinations that are rare in Greek, such as clusters of consonants or double consonants. The ending NTH, SS, TT, ND are common markers for pre-Greek influence. The proximity of the Aegean to Anatolia suggests that early Anatolian languages such as Luwian might have influenced the pre-Greek substrate. But with that being said, I also want to note that after further research, I did find out that the Luwian is in fact a part of the Indo-European language family. So that is something that I do want to point out. Luwian is actually a part of the Indo-European language family. So the unciphered linear A script of the Minoans represents a significant source of mystery in the pre-Greek substrate. While it is not yet understood, it likely reflects one of the languages spoken in Crete before Greek. The Cycladic culture in the mysterious Pelasgians, I have a hard time with these names, Pelasgians, often referenced in Greek myths, are thought to have been contributors to the pre-Greek linguistic and cultural landscape. Names of some Greek gods and mythological figures may have pre-Greek origins, such as Athena, possibly derived from the non-Greek source linked to local worship. Minos, the legendary king of Crete, connected to the Minoans civilization. Eulythia, the goddess of childbirth, whose name has no clear Indo-European etymology. Pre-Greek cultures likely contributed to Greek mythology through symbols like the labyrinth and rituals tied to fertility and nature. Much of the pre-Greek substrate is reconstructed from indirect evidence, as no written text apart from undeciphered scripts like Linear A survive. Scholars debate the extent and specifics of pre-Greek influence, with some attributing significant cultural and linguistic elements to the substrate, while others argue for more limited impact. The pre-Greek substrate likely encompasses influences from multiple unrelated languages and cultures, making it challenging to isolate specific linguistic features. So that is the pre-straits. Now, after that, I want to cover the Proto-Indo-European language. Now, I know that I'm going through this, but I do have a lot of information, and since I am the only one on here, this is a good time for me to get this out and do it on live stream so that I can I can actually get it on live stream. So what I'm going to do now is cut off the call for Skype because Angel is in my channel again, causing a nuisance. All he does is puts these quirky little memes in place. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave that one alone, and I will continue without my stream, or without my Skype. So let me go ahead and take that off of the stream, and I will switch my background to something better. Okay, let's see what we got here. Yeah, here we go. I'll do this one. So here we go. Let me go ahead and get started on the rest of this. Now, the Proto-Indo-European root H2ENH1, to breathe, blow, is foundational to words that link breath with life and consciousness. To Proto-Indo-European speaking cultures, breath was metaphorically and literally tied to the essence of life. Breath is universally associated with the soul or life force, suggesting early metaphysical ideas among Proto-Indo-European speakers. The cessation of breath symbolizes death, with this root influencing later words for spirit or ghost in descendant language or languages. This semantic field suggests that H2ENH1 served as more than a descriptor of a physical action. It was integral to understanding existence and vitality. Early Proto-Indo-European speakers likely observed the tangible force of wind as a parallel to the intangible breath, connecting the two in their linguistic framework. Wind and air movement, critical for agriculture and survival, may have led to specialized derivatives of H2ENH1, which that is actually pronounced a certain way, but I cannot do it, for specific weather patterns. Now, the wind-air movements, wind and air movements critical for agriculture and survival may have led to specialized derivatives of H2ENH1 for specific weather patterns. The root's use in words for air-related phenomena suggests it was central to Proto-Indo-European speakers' relationship with their environment. The metaphoric use of H2ENH1 expanded into abstract concepts. Breath was linked to ideas of divine inspiration, as seen in later Indo-European mythologies. The act of speaking, reliant on breath, was semantically tied to H2ENH1, influencing words for speech or language in descendant languages. Proto-Indo-European roots often generated a family of related words through affixation and compounding. H2ENH1 likely spawned derivatives describing qualities like airy or light, representing specific winds or breath-like phenomena, extending the meaning to actions like exhaling, inhaling, or blowing forcefully. Giving the symbolic weight of breath, H2ENH1 might have had ritualistic or spiritual connotations among Proto-Indo-European speakers. Breathing patterns could have been synchronized with chants or prayers connecting physical breath to the divine. Wind phenomena may have been seen as manifestations of divine forces, with H2ENH1 forming the linguistic basics of such beliefs. These cultural practices might have left subtle traces in descendant Indo-European mythologies and languages. In different branches of the Indo-European language family, reflexes of H2ENH1 exhibit fascinating variations. Words for wind often incorporate the nasal element N, but shift the vowel quality due to the phonological rules. Reflexes retain a closer semantic link to breath and soul. Innovations might focus on a metaphor of air and invisibility. The diversity of these reflexes underscores the root's flexibility and the varying priorities of Proto-Indo-European descendant cultures. Breathing techniques or wind exposure may have been part of early medical traditions. Breath control was essential for storytelling and oral transmission of knowledge, linking H2ENH1 to cultural continuity. This broader social relevance further illuminates the root's impact. Linguistics identify a shared root for words with similar meanings across related languages. For anemoi, the root is traced to a Proto-Indo-European root, H2ENH1, meaning to breathe or to blow. By comparing related terms in different languages, linguistics observes consistent sound changes. For example, initial sounds, vowels, or consonants may shift predictably due to the phonetic environment. The nasal sound N is preserved in related terms, suggesting continuity. The term anemoi reflects the addition of a pluralized or nominal suffix. In Indo-European languages, suffixes often transform verb roots to blow into nouns, wind. The core part of the word ane, A-N-E, from H2E NH1 remains intact, indicating that the meaning breath or wind was carried forward while the word adapted to grammatical needs. The original root likely described the act of breathing or blowing, which expanded to encompass the concept of wind as a natural force. The idea of wind as a life-giving or destructive force aligns with the broader cultural associations, allowing the word to take on mythological or symbolical meanings in different languages. Linguistics identify cognates, words in different languages with a common origin, to establish patterns. The term anemoi shares similarities with other words for wind or breath in Indo-European languages, confirming its derivation from the same root. By analyzing consistent sound shifts, changes of vowels, or the preservation of nasal sounds, linguistics reconstructs the probable original form of the word. The prominence of wind in ancient agriculture or seafaring societies likely reinforced its importance in language and mythology. Words for natural elements like wind often gain symbolic meaning, such as representing freedom, life, or divine power, reflecting shared cultural perspectives. Now, I was really surprised by that. I was able to make it through that with no problem. So I may be able to go farther with this than just Deus or Dius. Now, the Proto-Indo-European word Dius, D-Y-E-U-S, is a significant term in the study of Indo-European linguistics. As it provides insight into the root of ancient mythologies and linguistic developments across multiple branches of the Indo-European family. I'll explain the meaning of Dias using linguistic methods focusing on its form, its semantic field, and its evolution into various Indo-European languages. The word Dios is typically reconstructed in Proto-Indo-European as Dyu, which is D-Y-E-U, a root that is often associated with the concept of the sky or daylight. The root Dyu has been hypothesized to denote a bright celestial or heavenly realm, linking it to the idea of the daylight sky and its association with divinity and supreme power. The Proto-Indo-European root Dyu itself is related to a number of cognates across different Indo-European languages that signify a bright, high, or divine concept, further linking the root to the imaginary of the sky, or to the imagery of the sky and the sun. This root is central to the formation of terms related to the celestial and divine across many Indo-European cultures. In the context of Proto-Indo-European, Dios, D-Y-E-U-S, referred to the sky or the celestial realms. Over time, this term took on an additional connotation of a god or a divine figure, especially in relation to the sky. The Proto-Indo-European root Dyu, D-Y-E-U, thus embodies the early Indo-European concept of a sky deity, a powerful overarching figure that governs or oversees the world from above. In this semantic field, Dias is directly linked to several linguistic and mythological traditions. In Proto-Indo-European mythology, the sky deity was often envisioned as the highest god, a central figure in the pantheon who ruled over the heavens and often had dominion over the earth and the forces of nature. The Proto-Indo-European word Dios, D-Y-E-U-S, gave rise to several cognates in the daughter languages of Indo-European. These cognates can be found in various mythologies and pantheons, often as names of gods of the sky or gods associated with light, day, and heavens. The Latin word Deus, D-E-U-S, which means God, is derived from Dios, D-Y-E-U-S. In this case, the Proto-Indo-European word Dios evolved to represent a broader concept of a deity, and it later influenced the development of terms like deity in modern languages. In ancient Greek, the word Zeus derives from the Proto-Indo-European dyaus, D-Y-E-U-S. Zeus is the chief deity of Greek mythology, ruling over the sky in thunder, reflecting the role of dyaus, D-Y-E-U-S, as a sky god. The Sanskrit term dyaus, which is D-Y-A-U-S, meaning sky or heaven, also derives from dyaus, D-Y-E-U-S. In Vedic mythology, Dyaus, or Dyaus, D-Y-A-U-S, was the father of the god Indra, a warrior god associated with the sky, thunder, and rain. The Avestan language used in ancient Persia has the word Ahura Mazda, but it is also thought to have derived from the Proto-Indo-European dyaus, D-Y-E-U-S, specifically in relation to the sun god or to the supreme being of light and power in the Zoroastrian tradition. The Norse god Tyr, or Tyr, I never knew how to say that name properly, but Tyr, T-Y-R, who is associated with the sky and war, is thought to be related to the Proto-Indo-European dyaus, D-Y-E-U-S, further indicating the common Indo-European theme of a sky god or celestial deity. In Slavic languages, the root dyu, D-Y-E-U, is found in the word div, D-I-V, meaning God, and reflects the ancient association between the sky and divine power. The linguistic journey of dyaus, D-Y-E-U-S, through the Indo-European family reveals how this ancient root evolved into various forms in the daughter languages. Over time, the semantic scope of dyaus expanded from sky to include the idea of God, as Indo-European cultures developed complex pantheons where the sky god often became a supreme deity. In the Indo-Iranian branch, dyaus, D-Y-E-U-S, evolved into the Sanskrit dyaus, D-Y-A-U-S, and was associated with the sky god, who is depicted as a father figure to other deities. The Vedic texts feature dyaus Pitar, which is D-Y-A-U-S, Pitar, P-I-T-A-R, and that means sky father, who was one of the early gods in the Vedic pantheon, and this term parallels the idea of dyaus, which is D-Y-E-U-S, in Proto-Indo-European as a father figure associated with the sky and divine authority. In Greek, dyaus, D-Y-E-U-S, evolved into Zeus, the king of the gods in Greek mythology, ruling over the heavens, weather, and the laws of the universe. In Latin, dyaus evolved into deus, D-E-U-S, a word for God that became the foundation for the concept of divinity in Romance languages and beyond. In Celtic languages, the Proto-Indo-European root D-Y-E-U-S is reflected in various gods associated with the sky, light, and weather. For instance, in Gaulish, the word Daiu, D-I-E-U, is used to refer to a god, and similar forms appear in other Celtic languages. In the Germanic languages, the cognate of Dyeus, D-Y-E-U-S, is Tawaz, or Tyr, or whatever that says, T-Y-R, the god of war in the sky in Norse mythology. Tawaz is believed to derive from the same Proto-Indo-European root, emphasizing the role of the sky god in Indo-European mythology, particularly in the Germanic context. In Slavic languages, the Proto-Indo-European dais appears in words for god or divinity, such as div, which is div, in Old Church Slavonic. The Slavic pantheon included gods associated with the sky and nature, some of which may have derived from the same linguistics root. The word dyeus, D-Y-E-U-S, and its associated deities played a central role in the religious and mythological frameworks of many Indo-European cultures. As the god of the sky, Dyeus represented the overarching power that governed both the heavens and the earth. In many Indo-European mythologies, the sky god was seen as a paternal figure overseeing the natural world and maintaining order. In Greek mythology, Zeus was the king of the gods, ruling over Mount Olympus and controlling thunder, lightning, and the weather. In Vedic Hinduism, Dyaus, or Dyaus, was part of a divine triad, along with Prithvi, the earth, and Agni, fire, symbolizing the harmonious balance between the sky, the earth, and the sacred fire. In Roman religion, Jupiter, the Roman counterpart of Zeus, was worshipped as the god of the sky and thunder. The word deus, D-E-U-S, in Latin eventually came to represent all gods, reflecting the widespread concept of a supreme sky deity. The Norse mythology, Tyr was a god associated with the sky and war, and he was one of the principal gods before the rise of Odin. The Proto-Indo-European word Dyeus, or Dyeus, D-Y-E-U-S, represents a foundational concept in the mythologies and religious traditions of many Indo-European cultures. It originally referred to the sky, which was closely linked to the ideas of light, power, and divinity. Over time, the root evolved into names for various sky gods, who were often envisioned as supreme deities governing the natural world. By examining the cognates and evaluation of Dyeus, D-Y-E-U-S, linguistics and historians can trace the development of religious thought and the influence of these early sky gods on later mythologies. Now, this is where I continue with what I was discussing before. I want to make a note of Aeon and Progonus, who are mortal men in Phoenician mythology, and who were the children of the wind Calapia and his wife Ba'u. Now, Aeon discovered food from trees, and Protogus means firstborn. Now, this goes back to what I was talking about in the last episode, and this is where I'll continue after reading all of the stuff that I was just reading about the Indo-European cultures and their linguistics. But this goes into the genealogy of the sky gods and everything during this time period, and it relates to what I was discussing earlier. So, protogonus, it means firstborn. Now, Ian and Protogonus were the parents of Genos and Genea, who lived in Phoenicia. During a drought, Genos and Genea looked up to the sun and named him Bilsman, which means master of the sky in Phoenician. The Greeks called him Zeus. Now, Genos and Genea are both Greek words that have multiple meanings. Genos means race, stock, kin, and was used to describe a social group that claimed common descent. In ancient Greece, gene, Gene, were often made up of noble families. The term was used in many different ways, including to describe a species, genus, sort, category, birth, lineage, family, generation, and posterity. Now, Genea, which is spelled Genea, means race, family, generation, class, and kind. It can also mean fathered, birth, nativity, that which has been begotten, men of the same stock, or a family. In the New Testament, Jesus uses the word in a variety of ways, including to refer to the human race, the Jewish people, or the group of people challenging him. Now that we've come to this part, I want to go ahead and continue where I didn't think, honestly, that I would get this far into it, but I want to go back to what I was discussing last year with Palmyra. Now, Palmyra is something that I really wanted to focus on, but like I said, we went a bit off track in my last season. Now, Palmyra is it's a historical golden nugget, basically, and the reason why I say that is because, like, whenever I am in these kind of conversations during streams, talking to other people, they always have this theory where Jesus traveled to India and stuff of that nature, and I usually kept my mouth shut because I had done this last year and I just didn't have the information in front of me to where I could relate it. But I finally do have it available, and I just wanted to share it. If Jesus did get his teachings from anybody, it wouldn't have been because he traveled to India. This city, Palmyra, is probably where he ended up getting a lot of his knowledge from. Palmyra is one of those cities in the ancient world where it's not really mentioned very much, but this was a very interesting kingdom, and it had a blend of all these cultures going to the Proto-Indo-Europeans, to the Indo-European languages, going into its own belief systems. It was also influenced by, the Canaanites too. It had a blend of all of these belief systems. And since I did make it this far, and I do have time to actually get through this, I'll just go ahead and go right into Palmyra, because this is actually a pretty good place to do this on my own. I won't get involved in any kind of conflict or arguments like I did the last time. I can actually talk about it. So, because I'm by myself. Now, before I go into all that, I should probably check and see if anybody's actually left any comments. No comments so far, so that's good. There we go. I got free. I was able to do it without any kind of discussion whatsoever. I passed right through that one, so I'm on a good start. So the influence of the Proto-Indo-European in Palmyra is an intriguing aspect of historical linguistics, particularly when we examine the city's language, culture, and its interactions with various Indo-European speaking people. While the ancient city of Palmyra was situated in the heart of the desert of modern-day Syria, it became a crossroads of multiple cultures and languages, including those of Indo-European speaking people. Palmyra, during its height as a thriving oasis city, was a melting pot for diverse influences, both linguistic and cultural. The city's position as a major caravan hub linked the Roman Empire with the Parthian Empire and beyond to India, China, and the Arabian Peninsula, exposing it to multiple language families, including the Indo-European languages. Let's explore how Proto-Indo-European may have influenced Palmyra, focusing primarily on the language spoken there as well as the broader cultural and historical context. The primary language spoken in Palmyra was Aramaic, a Semitic language that over time became the lingua franca of much of the Near East. While Aramaic itself is not an Indo-European language, it coexisted with several Indo-European languages in the region, especially as the city was at the crossroads of several empires, including the Roman and Parthian empires. Aramaic influenced and was influenced by these surrounding languages. However, Aramaic was heavily influenced by neighboring languages, including Greek and Latin, which were Indo-European in origin. The presence of these Indo-European languages within Palmyra's culture and political sphere led to a significant amount of lexical borrowing, especially from Greek, the language of the Eastern Roman Empire. Inscriptions of Palmyra, particularly from the Roman period, reveal a noticeable blend of Aramaic and Greek influences, a product of the Hellenistic period following the conquest of Alexander the Great, and the subsequent dominance of the Roman Empire in the region. While Aramaic was the native tongue of the Palmyrines, I hate when they do that, the Palmyrines, Greek and Latin were used as administrative, commercial, and diplomatic purposes. Greek influence, in particular, is evident in the Palmyrene script, which is derived from the Aramaic script, but contains several elements borrowed from Greek. These influences underscore the Indo-European impact on the region, which began with the Hellenistic period and continued through the Roman Empire. Through the Palmyrene language, although the Palmyrene language itself was not directly descended from Proto-Indo-European, It was influenced by Indo-European languages through contact with Greek and Latin. Many loanwords in Palmyrene come from Greek, especially in the domains of governance, culture, and religion. For example, the word for king in Palmyrene was borrowed from the Greek word basileus, and religious terminology in Palmyra, such as theos, which means God, also reflects Greek influences. In addition, Latin words and phrases appear in the inscriptions of Palmyra, especially in the context of Roman rule. Roman emperors were often depicted in Palmyrene inscriptions with Latin titles. In Roman military terms, administrative titles and legal concepts were incorporated into the Palmyrene lexicon. This phenomenon reflects the broader impact of the Roman Empire, the Indo-European power, on the linguistics landscape of Palmyra. While Aramaic remained the dominant spoken language in Palmyra, the influence of Greek and Latin as languages derived from Proto-Indo-European can be seen in these loanwords and linguistic structures. Thus, the linguistic environment of Palmyra was shaped by its contact with Indo-European languages, which were transmitted through Greek culture and the political dominance of the Roman Empire. The historical and political context of Palmyra also contributes to the influence of Indo-European languages on the region. Palmyra was an independent kingdom for a time before being absorbed into the Roman Empire in the 1st century CE. Under the leadership of Queen Zenobia in the 3rd century CE, Palmyra became a powerful regional force, even challenging the Roman Empire for control of parts of the East. During this period of political and military dominance, Palmyra's elite engaged in diplomacy with the Roman Empire, whose language was Latin, and the Parthian Empire, whose elites spoke Middle Persian, an Indo-European language. Diplomatic, commercial, and military exchanges between Palmyra, Rome, and the Parthians led to significant cultural and linguistic interactions. As part of the Roman Empire, Palmyra adopted many Roman customs, including the Roman religious practices, worship of Roman gods, emperor worshipping, and stuff of that nature, military structures, and legal systems. So let me read that. As a part of the Roman Empire, Palmyra adopted many Roman customs, including the Roman religious practices, worshiping of the Roman gods, emperor worshipping, military structures, and legal systems. The Latin language, as the administrative and official language of the Roman Empire, would have influenced the elite and educated classes of Palmyra, resulting in the incorporation of Latin terms into Palmyrene inscriptions and official documents. In terms of religion, Palmyra had its own local deities, but there was a blending of local and Roman religious practices, resulting in the worship of Roman gods alongside traditional Palmyrene deities. The Palmyrenes worship gods such as Bel Shaman, and Aglibal. but they also adopted Roman deities, including Jupiter, Venus, and Sol Invictus. The Roman imperial cult, which emphasizes the worship of the emperor as a divine figure, was also embraced by the Palmyrenians, further linking their religious practices to Roman and Indo-European traditions. Palmyra's religious landscape was heavily influenced by Indo-European religious practices, particularly through its interaction with Hellenistic and Roman religions. Hellenistic Greece had a profound impact on the religious and philosophical traditions of the Near East, including Palmyra. Greek philosophy, especially the Stoic and Epicurean schools of thought, influenced the intellectual life of the region. In addition to Zoroastrian religion of the Persians, a major Indo-Iranian religious tradition had a subtle influence on the religious practices of Palmyra. Zoroastrianism emphasized the duality between good and evil, light and darkness, which resonated with some of the dualistic elements of Palmyrene, which resonated with some of the dualistic elements in Palmyrene religious thought. Furthermore, Zoroastrian deities such as Ahura Mazda were occasionally syncretized. That's occasionally syncretized. And like I said before, syncretized in this context means the merging of belief systems, religions, and things of that nature. So just keep that in mind. So, furthermore, Zoroastrian deities such as Ahura Mazda were occasionally syncretized with Palmyrene gods and religious figures from the Parthian Empire. Were depicted in Palmyrene art. Such as Ahura Mazda. Okay. So furthermore, Zoroastrian deities such as Ahura Mazda were occasionally syncretized with Palmyrene gods and religious figures from the Parthian Empire were depicted in Palmyrene art. The Indo-European influence of Palmyrene religion is also reflected in the presence of mythological themes and motifs, such as the association of certain gods with the celestial bodies, the sun, moon, and stars, and the worship of solar deities like Sol Invictus. While Palmyra itself was not an Indo-European speaking society, its political, cultural, and religious landscape were deeply influenced by the Indo-European world, particularly through its interaction with Greek and Roman powers. The adoption of Greek and Latin loanwords into the Palmyrene language, the blending of Roman religious practices with local traditions, and the diplomatic and military interactions with Indo-European empires all attest to the significant influence of Proto-Indo-European linguistics and cultural traditions of Palmyra. Palmyra's position as a cosmopolitan city at the crossroads of East and West meant that it was constantly interacting with Indo-European speakers, and this interaction played a pivotal role in shaping the city's linguistics, culture, and religious development. Zoroastrian, one of the world's oldest known religions, places significant emphasis on the duality of good and evil, as well as light and darkness. However, this emphasis is often misunderstood as dualism, a concept where two opposing forces are seen as equally powerful and eternally in conflict. Zoroastrianism, in contrast, operates on a firework of dualities that reflect a temporary and ultimately resolvable tension, with good and light destined to prevail over evil and darkness. Zoroastrian cosmology centers on the opposition between Ahura Mazda, the wise Lord, the supreme God and creator of all that is good, and Agra Menu, the destructive spirit, the embodiment of chaos and evil. However, unlike strict dualistic systems where both forces might be considered co-eternal and equally powerful, Zoroastrianism asserts that Ahura Mazda presented truth, order, and light, and is ultimately omnipotent. Angra Manu, while powerful, is a finite and subordinate force that operates within creation. Agra Manu emerges from his own choices in opposition to Ahura Mazda's will, introducing chaos and evil into the world. This suggests that evil is not an independent principle, but a corruption or distortion of good. This duality reflects the dynamic tension in the material and spiritual worlds where humans and other sentient beings must choose between Asha, truth and order, and Drudge, deception and disorder. The Zoroastrian thought, in Zoroastrian thought, light and darkness serve as primary metaphors for the forces of good and evil. Light symbolizes truth, knowledge, purity, and the divine presence of Ahura Mazda. It is associated with the physical sun, fire, and stars, which are revered as manifestation of divine energy. Darkness symbolizes ignorance, deceit, and the destructive influence of Agra Menu. It is associated with the absence of divine presence and the realm where chaos and evil thrives. The Zoroastrian practice of maintaining sacred fires in temples exemplifies this symbolism. Fire is a source of light and warmth Fire as a source of light and warmth represents Ahura Mazda's truth and presence in the material world. Conversely, darkness is not an independent entity, but a lack of light, reinforcing the idea that evil is the absence or corruption of good. The central tenet of Zoroastrianism is the role of free will in navigating the dualities of good and evil. Humans as creations of Ahura Mazda are endowed with the ability to choose between Asha, the path of truth, righteousness, and harmony, aligned with Ahura Mazda's will, or Drudge, the path of falsehood, chaos, and destruction, influenced by Agra Manu. This moral duality is temporary, as the ultimate outcome is predetermined. Good will triumph over evil. However, the individual's choices contribute to the collective struggle between these forces, emphasizing personal responsibility in the cosmic order. While Zoroastrianism clearly outlines a struggle between opposite forces, it does not conform to the strict definition of dualism, where two forces are co-equal and eternally in conflict. Ahura Mazda is the singular, omnipotent source of all creation. Even Agra Menu operates within the bounds of Ahura Mazda's overarching plan. Eschatological resolution. The struggle between good and evil is not eternal. Zoroastrian eschatology foretells a time when evil will be eradicated, the material world will be purified, and all souls will be reunited with Ahura Mazda in a state of eternal harmony. This framework reflects a moral duality, a temporary and resolvable conflict, rather than a metaphysical dualism. The Gathas, the hymns attributed to Zoroaster, emphasizes the duality of good and evil and provides insight into the moral and cosmic dimensions of this tension. Zoroaster describes the two primal spirits, Spenta Manu, the beneficent spirit, or the beneficent spirit, and Agra Manya, the destructive spirit, who represents truth and falsehood respectively. These spirits are not equal in power, as Spenta Manu ultimately aligns with Ahura Mazda's creative forces. The Gathas highlight the importance of human choice in supporting the forces of good. Through righteous actions, individuals can contribute to the triumph of Asha over Draj. Zoroaster emphasizes the eventual defeat of evil and the establishment of divine order, underscoring the transient nature of the duality. At the end of time, the material world will undergo a process of purification and renewal. Evil will be eradicated, and all souls will be redeemed and reunited with Ahura Mazda. A prophesied savior figure, the Saoshyant, the Saoshyant, will lead the final battle against Agra Manu and his forces. This reflects the ultimate triumph of good over evil. All souls will be resurrected and judged based on their deeds. The righteous will be rewarded, while those aligned with Raj will face purification. The sacred fire, a symbol of Ahura Mazda's light and truth, is maintained in temples and serves as a focal point for worship. Fire rituals emphasize the triumph of light over darkness. Zoroastrianism places great emphasis on maintaining physical and spiritual purity. Rituals for cleansing and purification reflect the duality of purity, aligned with Asha, and impurity, associated with Draj. Daily prayers and the recitation of Zoroastrian scriptures are intended to align the individual with the forces of good and repel the influence of evil. Zoroastrian concepts of duality have influenced other religious traditions, particularly Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, through their traditions, through their interactions with Persian culture during the Achaemenid Empire and beyond. Themes such as the battle between good and evil, the final judgment, and the resurrection of the dead have parallels in these later religious traditions, often reflecting Zoroastrian roots. Zoroastrianism's emphasis on the duality of good and evil, light and darkness, serves as a framework for understanding the moral and cosmic struggles inherent in existence. Unlike dualism, which posits an eternal and equal conflict, Zoroastrian duality is a temporary and resolvable tension within a monotheistic framework. This worldview underscores the ultimate triumph of good, the moral responsibility of individuals, and the transient nature of evil, offering a hopeful vision of cosmic harmony and justice. Zoroastrianism primarily emphasizes dualism, not duality, when considering the relationship between the opposing forces of Ahura Mazda, the wise Lord, symbolizing good, truth, and light, and Agra Menu, the destructive spirit, symbolizing evil, lies, and darkness. These two forces are portrayed as being in constant conflict, reflecting a cosmic struggle between good and evil. This is the foundation of Zoroastrian theology and ethics, where individuals are urged to align with Ahura Mazda through good thoughts, words, and deeds to help defeat Agra Manu. However, if we attempt to frame Zoroastrianism within the concept of duality, where opposing forces complement rather than conflict, there are elements in its cosmology that can suggest balance and interconnectedness rather than outright opposition. In Zoroastrianism, the material world is seen as the battleground for this cosmic struggle, while Ahura Mazda's creation represents order, Asha. It cannot exist without the challenge posed by chaos, Drudge. This interplay allows humans to exercise free will, a central tenet of the faith. Without the presence of Agra Manu, the concept of moral choice and the value of good actions would lack meaning. In this sense, the existence of both forces complements the purpose of creation. Zoroastrian eschatology teaches that the cosmic struggle will eventually end with the triumph of Ahura Mazda, resulting in the purification of the world. That's Frasho Kahereti. At this point, even Agra Manu and the forces of evil will be rendered powerless, and all existence will return to a state of unity and perfection. This suggests a broader perspective where the current conflict serves a purpose in the grand scheme of achieving ultimate harmony. Humans in Zoroastrianism are not mere spectators, but active participants in the cosmic order. Through their moral choices, they contribute to the strengthening of good and the weakening of evil. This highlights a balance in which human agency bridges the two opposing forces, creating a complementary relationship between the divine and the material realms. While Zoroastrianism is traditionally categorized as dualistic due to its depiction of cosmic conflict, these elements of interdependence, moral choice, and eventual harmony introduces a perspective that can resonate with the idea of duality, where opposites work together to fulfill a greater purpose. Now, after that, I want to go over some of the deities other than the Indo-European beliefs that were taking place, and that is where things kind of get that were taking place in Palmyra. Now that's where things kind of get interesting. This is where we go off into the Canaanite religions. After discussing the Zoroastrian belief system and what that's all about, I will go ahead and start with these deities. These aren't all of them, but these are the ones that pertain to sky gods in the Canaanite religions that were related to Palmyra. So the first one is Belsamen, and that was mentioned earlier. I still need to find out if Belsamen is related to Hadad. In some texts they say that he is, and in some texts they say that they're two separate entities, so I don't know that for sure, just to make that clear. But instead of making it one, I'm going to read both of them and let you determine for yourself. Belshazzar was a prominent deity worshipped in the ancient Near East, particularly in the region of Syria and Phoenicia. His name translates to Lord of Heavens, emphasizing his role as a celestial god associated with the sky, storms, and fertility. Baal-Shaman had held a significant position in the pantheon of Semitic religions, influencing religious practices and iconography across cultures. The name Baal, from the Semitic root B/L, means Lord or Master. Shaman, from the Semitic root SM, translates to heavens or sky. Together, Baal-Shaman means Lord of the Heavens. Baal-Shaman originated as part of the broader Semitic religious traditions, particularly in the Levant. His worship could be traced to early Canaanite and Phoenician religious practices, where he was often associated with other deities like Baal-Hadad, a storm and fertility god, and El, the chief god of the Canaanite pantheon. Baal-Shaman was primarily associated with the heavens, making him a god of the sky, weather, and cosmic order. He was linked to fertility through his role in bringing rain and ensuring agricultural abundance. In some traditions, he was also considered a protector of life and a guardian of the cosmic balance. Baal-Shaman was often depicted as a bearded man wearing a long robe and holding a scepter or thunderbolt, symbolizing his authority over the skies and storms. He was sometimes represented with solar or astral symbols, reinforcing his connection to the heavens. The most famous temple dedicated to Baal-Shaman was located in Palmyra, an ancient city in modern-day Syria. The temple built in the 2nd century CE showcased Greco-Roman architectural influences combined with local styles. Worship involved offerings of incense, animal sacrifices, and rituals aimed at invoking his favor for rain, protection, and fertility. Both were sky gods associated with storms and rain, but Baal-Shem was often considered a more celestial or universal figure, while Hadad had a more localized role as a weather god. Baal-Shem's celestial attributes aligned with El, the high god of the Canaanite pantheon, and Yahweh, the God of ancient Israel, particularly in their role as sovereign deities of the heavens. Baal-Shem was sometimes associated with fertility goddesses like Astarte or Ishtar, which is also Inanna from the Sumerians. Ishtar is Inanna, reflecting the complementary relationship in assuring agriculture and reproductive abundance. The temple of Baal-Shem in Palmyra was one of the city's most iconic religious structures, blending Greco-Roman, Mesopotamian, and local Syrian architectural elements. It was a central site for worship, festivals, and community gatherings. Tragically, the temple was destroyed in 2015 by ISIS, who targeted it as part of their campaign against pre-Islamic cultural heritage. As the ancient world became increasingly interconnected, Baal-Shem's attributes merged with those of other deities. In Greco-Roman context, he was sometimes identified with Zeus or Jupiter, showcasing the adaptability of his worship. Baal-Shem embodied the celestial forces, symbolizing the order and fertility provided by the heavens. His worship reflected the ancient understanding of the sky as a source of both blessing, rain, and destruction, storms. The rise of monotheistic religions like Christianity and Islam gradually supplanted the worship of Baal-Shem and other polytheistic deities. By the late Roman period, many temples dedicated to Baal-Shem were repurposed for Christian worship, and his cult faded into history. Baal-Shem remains a figure in the interest of studies of ancient religions, highlighting the interconnectedness of Semitic, Greco-Roman, and Mesopotamian traditions. After that, this is where I get into Hadad. Now, Hadad, also spelled Adad or Had, H-A-D-D, is a prominent deity in the ancient Semitic pantheon, primarily worshipped in the region of Mesopotamia, the Levant, and parts of Anatolia. He is associated with storms, rain, thunder, and fertility, embodying the life-giving yet destructive forces of nature. His worship dates back to the 3rd millennia BCE and is intertwined with the cultures of mythologies and the Amorites. With the cultures of mythologies of the Amorites, Canaanites, Assyrians, and Babylonians. Hadad's name is believed to derive from the Semitic root HDD, meaning to thunder or to roar. This connection reflects his role as a storm god. He is known by various names across different cultures. Adad in Mesopotamia contexts, particularly among the Akkadians, Assyrians, and Babylonians. Baal-Hadad in Canaanite religion, where Baal, meaning Lord, became a common epithet for him. Teshub in Hurrian and Hittite traditions, where he is closely associated with the storm god of Anatolia. Hadad is often depicted wielding a thunderbolt or holding a club emphasizing his control over the storms and lightning. He is sometimes shown riding a chariot pulled by bulls, which symbolizes strength and fertility. The bull was sacred to Hadad and became a key symbol of his worship. In his iconography, Hadad's storm-related powers are emphasized, representing both the blessing of rain for crops and the destructive potential of storms, floods, and lightning. Hadad's primary role was as a bringer of rain, making him vital to agricultural societies dependent on constant rainfall for their crops. His favor was sought through offerings and rituals, particularly in times of drought or famine. As a storm god, Hadad was also viewed as a divine warrior who could vanquish chaos and protect his people. His storms were often interpreted as manifestations of his power against enemies or cosmic threats. In many myths, Hadad played a central role in the divine order, mediating conflicts among gods or intervening in human affairs. His authority among other deities varied across regions, but he was often considered a supreme or highly influential god. Hadad features prominently in ancient mythology, particularly in Canaanite and Mesopotamian traditions. In Ugaritic text, Hadad, as Baal Hadad, is the chief storm god and a central figure in the Baal cycle, a series of myths found in the ancient city of Ugarit, modern-day Ras Shamra, Syria. Baal battles and defeats Yam, the sea god, asserting his dominance over chaos and establishing his reign as king of the gods. Baal constructs a palace on Mount Zephin, symbolizing his authority over the natural world and the divine realm. Baal clashes with Mot, the god of death, in a cyclical struggle that represents the seasonal cycles of fertility and drought. In Mesopotamia, Hadad or Adad is associated with the god Enlil and sometimes regarded Hadad is associated with God Enlil and sometimes regarded as his son. In Mesopotamia, Hadad or Adad is associated with the god Enlil and sometimes regarded as his son. Adad's role in Mesopotamia myth often revolves around Adad is one of the gods who participates in the Great Flood myth, wielding his storm powers to bring rain and destruction. Adad's storms are interpreted as tools of divine justice, punishing humanity or testing their loyalty to the gods. Hadad was worshipped across the ancient Near East, with temples and altars dedicated to him in key cities. Aleppo was a major center for Hadad worship, where he was venerated as the city's patron deity. The Temple of Hadad in Aleppo dates back to the early 2nd millennium BCE. In Babylonian religion, Adad had a prominent temple where he was worshipped alongside Shamash, the sun god. Hadad was venerated in Palmyra under the title Baal Shaman, which I said this isn't factual, because there's different texts. There's some that say that it was a separate entity, and then some that say that it was one and the same. But I wanted to stop there and say that before I moved on. Hadad was venerated in Palmyra under the title Baal Shaman, Lord of the Heavens, merging his identity with other sky gods. Zeus, Jupiter, the Greek and Roman sky gods share storm-related attributes with Hadad, including the thunderbolt. Teshub, the Hurrian and Hittite storm god, often identified with Hadad, played a similar role in Anatolia mythology. Indra, in Vedic traditions, Indra is a storm and rain god comparable to Hadad in his control over the natural world and his warrior aspects. Hadad's battle with Yam is a central myth of Canaanite religion, particularly as recorded in the Baal cycle, a series of texts discovered at Ugarit, modern-day Ras Shamra, Syria. This epic narrative portrays the cosmic struggle between Hadad, often referred to as Baal Hadad, and Yam, the god of the sea, symbolizing the conflict between order and chaos. The myth also establishes Hadad's position as the king of the gods and master of the natural world, particularly storms and fertility. Baal Hadad, the storm god, also called Rider of the Clouds, is the hero of the story. He is associated with rain, fertility, and the forces that sustain life. Yam represents the sea and chaos. Yam, whose name literally means sea, is portrayed as a destructive and unruly force. In some texts, he is referred to as Nahor, the river, or Judge Nahor, emphasizing his power and dominion. El, the head of the Canaanite pantheon, often depicted as a distant and passive figure in this myth. Asherah, the mother goddess and consort of El, sometimes involved in the negotiation and power dynamics of the gods. Kothar Wakasis, the craftsman god who creates magical weapons for Baal Hadad, enabling him to defeat Yam. The story begins with El, the chief god, granting Yam dominion over the other gods. Yam is declared the ruler of the divine assembly and demands submission from the other deities, including Baal Hadad. This sets the stage for a confrontation as Baal refuses to bow to Yam's authority. Yam sends messengers to El's court, demanding that Baal Hadad and the other gods surrender to him. The gods are intimidated by Yam's power and hesitate to defy him. However, Baal, confident in his strength and destiny, refuses to yield and prepares for battle. Before the battle, Baal seeks assistance from Kothar Wakasis, the divine craftsman. Kothar forges two magical weapons, Yagrash, Chaser, and Amur, Driver, which are imbued with extraordinary powers. These weapons are specifically designed to defeat Yam and subdue his chaotic forces. Armed with his new weapons, Baal confronts Yam in a climatic struggle. The myth vividly describes Baal's might as he wields his enchanted weapons to strike down Yam. Using Yagrash and Amur, Baal defeats Yam, splitting him apart and subduing the sea's chaotic power. Hold on a minute. This victory symbolizes Baal's triumph over disorder and his establishment of control over the natural world. By defeating Yom, Baal asserts his role as the bringer of rain and fertility, ensuring the survival of prosperity of the earth. After his victory, Baal is hailed as the king of the gods. He constructs a magnificent palace on Mount Zaphon, modern-day Jabal al-Akra, a sacred mountain that serves as his divine dwelling and a symbol of his authority. The palace represents Baal's control over the cosmos, as well as his ability to mediate between the heavens and the earth. Okay. To mediate between the heavens and the earth. The battle between Baal, Hadad, and Yom carries profound symbolic meaning, reflecting the natural and spiritual concerns of the ancient Canaanites. Yom represents the untamed, destructive forces of nature, particularly the sea, which was viewed as chaotic and dangerous. Baal's victory signifies the triumph of order over chaos, aligning the natural world with the needs of humanity. As the storm god, Baal's victory ensures the regular cycles of rain and fertility, crucial for agricultural societies. The subjugation of Yom, the sea, highlights the importance of controlling water as a life-giving resource. Baal's ascension to kingship mirrors the political and social structures of the ancient Near East, where rulers were seen as divinely sanctioned mediators between the gods and their people. The struggle and resolution between Baal and Yom represents the balance of opposing forces in nature, storm and sea, fertility and destruction. The Baal-Yom conflict shares similarities with other ancient myths, reflecting a shared cultural framework across the ancient Near East. Marduk this is what he's called, Marduk, I should know this one. Marduk, the Babylonian storm god, battles and defeats Tiamat, the sea goddess, in the Enuma Elish. Like Baal, Marduk establishes order and becomes the king of the gods. Zeus, the Greek sky god, defeats Typhon, a monstrous force of chaos, to secure his rule over the cosmos. Indra, the Vedic storm god, slays Vritra, a serpent or dragon associated with drought and chaos, ensuring the release of life-giving water. The myth of Baal and Yom reflects the agricultural and environmental realities of the Canaanite people who depended on rain for their crops and viewed the sea as a source of both subsistence and danger. Baal's role as a storm god made him a central figure in their religious practices, with rituals and offerings aimed at securing his favor and ensuring the regularity of the natural cycles. Elements of the Baal-Yom myth influenced later religious and cultural traditions, particularly in the Hebrew Bible and other Near East texts. In the Hebrew Bible, Yahweh's control over the sea, parting the Red Sea in Exodus, echoes Baal's victory over Yom. Biblical psalms describing God's mastery over chaotic waters may draw on Canaanite imagery of Baal's dominance over Yom. So that is it. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get all of that done. I actually did a lot more than what I was supposed to, but this was a good chance to actually get in and get through the whole Canaanite thing without any kind of upheaval. Like I said before, I did this with the Praetorian and with my channel, the Praetorian, and it didn't go too well the first time. So I'm kind of glad that I was able to do this on my own and get it out there, because believe it or not, all of this stuff about the Canaanites is a very controversial subject. Now, I've been in certain conversations with people. Raphael was one who made the comment on Nancy Planetta's show, the Vixen, something. but he was talking about Marduk being related to Moloch, and that's where a lot of this came up to. And now that I've been able to go through all this, I can confidently say that it wasn't this Moloch character that he was associated to. It was Baal, which is actually Hadad or Adad, and he ended up taking on the name Baal, which Baal is actually the generic word for Lord in the Canaanite language. But he ended up being coined or with the name Baal. When everybody makes reference to the name Baal, they're usually referring to Adad or Hadad, and they're relating Hadad to both Marduk and to Zeus. So that right there is a pretty interesting connection there. I know that a lot of things that I've done research on in this area has amazed me. I'm glad that I was able to get back to this point and get it done and over with. I believe that I am caught up on where I was before for this, compared to what I did last year on the Praetorian. And that is actually being played on the Wonderful World of Weirdness, as well as Strange Stories, but it's in shorter 15-minute increments, so it'll take longer to hear all of it. But I have Karma Love on there. Me and her, I feel, did a really good job all the way up until the end, where we both kind of flipped out and got into a really crazy situation. But thank goodness we were able to get through that, and I love her to death. So with that being said, I guess I could end it here. I do want to add on to the series by going into some stuff about Mount Fuji, and which I've been doing on Strange Stories, and I want to get into some stuff concerning samsara, and I'm debating if I want to do that on here on Ancient Mysteries, or if I want to do it on Earth. Now, on Ancient Mysteries, I can get into the deities and everything, and the different kind of stuff like that, but I do want to be able to promote my channel Earth more too, so it's kind of a debate for me. I want to get into it as soon as possible on top of that, and I've got Earth scheduled for later on this year, and I'm just beginning the year, so I may be coming back with that, or I may go further with this, but I'm pretty happy with where I'm ending this episode. I was able to get a lot of that going on. I was able to just get through and read the content here. This I hope actually sounded right. You guys got something from it. But with me reading, I kind of go into my own little zone, and I don't know exactly how well I did or how well I didn't do. So if you guys want to, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. I love talking about this stuff. This is actually my biggest my biggest it's my desire. I love it. I love ancient history. I love this more than a lot of other things. I think the only thing that comes close to this is actually writing. So if you guys want to, give me some comments, say something to me in the comments section. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it and your feedback on it. So I will check all of this and see if any of you actually had anything to say. Nope, you didn't. Well, that will end it then. I guess I am done with everything that I have to say at this point. Thank you guys for coming in and watching, and I'll see you next time.